Good morning and welcome to the Tuesday, January 23rd Board of County Commissioners meeting. We do begin our meetings with an invocation, and today we have Bernadette Wilkie from Boulder Street Church. Please join us if you would like.
Good morning. Let's pray. Great and awesome God, as we meet together today, we want to first invoke your blessings on the discussions and the decisions being brought forth today. We invoke your guidance and leading for the people of El Paso County to fulfill their divine callings and the destiny you have designed for this county and its cities. We do not lean on our own understanding, but we lean on you to help us stand for justice and truth and do what is right and honoring to you. Lord, we lift up all those who make our laws and ordinances, those who enforce them, and those who care for and protect us. Rebuke the devourer over those who dedicate themselves to serving our citizens. We put our trust in your unfailing love and faithfulness, and we pray all these things in your most holy name. Amen.
Thank you. And is Mark Flucher still in the building? Okay, I don't see him. Commissioner Gonzalez, would you please lead us in the pledge? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United Item number 3.
Item number 3 is staff emergency items, and I'm unaware of any staff emergency items today.
Item 4.
Item number 4 is changes, postponements, and notice of the next meeting. I'm aware of 2 changes to the agenda today. There's a request by staff to withdraw item number 12, and no motion is required for that. And at the board's discretion, we will take a brief recess after consideration of item number 10. The next meeting will be Thursday, January 25th at 9:00 a.m. for land use.
Item number 5.
Item number 5 is the consent calendar consisting of items 5A through 5H.
Are there any members of the public wishing to speak on items 5A through 5H? Hearing none in the room. Any online? Okay. I'll bring it up here for comments and a motion.
First, I would like to thank the individuals who have agreed to sign to serve on some of our citizens advisory committees. So then I would also move to approve the consent calendar.
I'll second.
That has been moved and seconded. Any further comments? Okay. Commissioner Williams?
Aye.
Commissioner Vanderwerf?
Aye.
Commissioner Gonzalez?
Aye.
Commissioner Geithner?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. The consent calendar passes 5-0. Item number 6.
Item number 6 is comments by elected officials and commissioner liaison reports.
And do we have any of our countywide elected officials in the room? I'm sorry, I saw someone earlier, but okay. We will begin with you, Commissioner Williams.
Okay, well, it is a beautiful good morning, and I would like to very much welcome back Blake Nilsson after his leave to have a beautiful baby girl. We're excited to see pictures, and congratulations to that exciting event. Also, at the same time, there's another unusual. When I first moved here, I want to congratulate Rob Quirk with Channel 5. I don't get much of a chance anymore to sit down and watch the news, but when I first moved here, I think he was already a staple on Channel 5 News, and I understand he is retiring, and tonight will be his last broadcast. So I just wanted to congratulate him on his many years of service to our community and understanding the issues that face our community. Other than that, we are keeping a close eye on what the state legislature is doing. So very few of the things they're doing I agree with. So that means it's going to be an interesting couple months to keep an eye on that. And I do have a few meetings this week, primarily the State of the Chamber on Wednesday, the Housing and Building Authority, the Colorado Springs HBA Annual Award Dinners on Thursday, and and some legislative committee meetings throughout the week. So, and also finally, I have a speaking opportunity in Monument on Saturday as they get a new fire truck. So we're excited for that. That's all I have this week. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Vanderwerf.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. And I appreciate Commissioner Williams's comments. We are absolutely monitoring a lot of the legislation that's been proposed from our state government. And some of them are very, very difficult to digest. We will get into more of a discussion about those. But once again, we now have a looming list of unfunded mandates coming down to local government. Once again, that means if that is placed into law, that's another road or park that we can't maintain. So even if I don't like that legislation, I ask the state legislators, if you want to do it, fund it. Don't send your agenda down to local government and make us pay for it. I can tell you that this is almost a universal view amongst both Republicans and Democrats that work in local government. They need those dollars to provide the services that local government does pretty well at providing. And the state legislature has to stop that. In addition to that, I do want to talk a little bit about December 26th Gazette article about the Colorado Air Quality Control Commission, which on February 15 is going to issue new ozone regulations. The target area is 9 Front Range counties, starting on the south side from Douglas and going north to Weld and Larimer. And the problem with this, and they even admit it in the Air Quality Control Commission, is that the vast majority of the ozone found in our area is actually background ozone, ozone that comes naturally. In some cases, it's over 90% of the registered ozone at one of the sensors in the state of Colorado is background radiation. So if they go down a path of restricting this even further, going beyond what even the current EPA is recommending, all we're going to do is harm ourselves by spending a bunch of money to try to reduce ozone in an area where we will never meet the requirement ever, because the background ozone is higher than the requirement. But if you actually look at what they really want to do, it's once again, about restricting fossil fuel production in Colorado. That's actually really the agenda that they're intending on doing, and this is a huge, huge mistake. And so once again, we're continuing to go down this path of a warp speed development in electric use for everything in the state of Colorado when the physics make it impossible to do, and it really is not realistic. And I would encourage the legislature and the governor to stop doing that as well. Okay, now that I've gotten through my feisty mode this morning, I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the meetings that I have today. First off, tomorrow I'll be meeting with Chris Long, who's currently the chair of the El Paso County Retirement Board, going to the Airport Advisory Commission Wednesday afternoon. And I do believe we have the State of the Chamber in late afternoon tomorrow. Looking forward to that. Of course, we have our land use activity on Thursday. And then the HBA Annual Awards Dinner is going to be Thursday night. And then on Friday, I'm actually going to be flying out to California to the Reagan Library and attending the Federalist Society's Western Chapters Conference. Have been doing that for several years and have really learned an enormous amount about the legal aspects of law and some of the laws that are promulgated throughout the country, both at the national and the local level. I really look forward to that. And that is all I have. Thank you.
Commissioner Gonzalez.
No comments this week. Thank you.
Commissioner Geithner.
Thank you, and good morning. It's a very busy week for me. I will be participating in and attending a couple of business openings. One is King Soopers and Falcon, the long-awaited, and there's also a Torchy's that is opening at New Center Point. So glad to see businesses thriving in our communities and providing services that citizens are excited for. I also will be attending an opioid council meeting tomorrow as well. Some of these things are starting to overlap, so hopefully some of these meetings don't run too long, but we also have CCI legislative steering meetings on both Thursday and Friday to talk about all the legislation going on. Those typically take a good chunk of Thursday and Friday, so again, there will be some overlap in these, and hopefully we'll, Commissioner Gonzalez and I usually try to tag team those, and we'll get lots of input there. I also have a regional building meeting on Thursday as well, and then on Friday, a library meeting. So a very, very busy week. In addition to that, I just wanted to take a moment and share some comments. Some of you may have heard that there has been a recently elected Argentinian president who recently spoke at the World Economic Forum, and I thought his words were really poignant. So I just wanted to share those today. He said, "Today I'm here to tell you that the Western world is in danger. And is in danger because those who are supposed to have to defend the values of the West are co-opted by a vision of the world that inexorably leads to socialism and thereby to poverty. Unfortunately, in recent decades, motivated by some well-meaning individuals willing to help others, and others motivated by the wish to belong to a privileged class, the main leaders of the Western world have abandoned the model of freedom for different versions of what we call collectivism. We're here to tell you that collectivist experiments are never the solution to the problems that afflict the citizens of the world. Rather, they are the root cause." And he further goes on to talk about how his country is a great example of that. And I just think that those words are really important. And it's important to note that those words are being said on the world stage. And at an organization that many have criticized over the years, it is, to me, encouraging that we are seeing bold, strong leaders for freedom stand up and talk about this, even in the spaces where we think that a lot of that doesn't exist anymore. So I just wanted to say it's encouraging to me. We know that capitalism has produced more freedom and opportunity here in America than anywhere else, and we're going to continue to stand firm for that. I think here in El Paso County, I know my colleagues are supportive of that, but it's very important work that we do to make sure that we do not slip into that collectivist mentality, because we know that, well-meaning or not, it is not the solution to a thriving and healthy society.
Thank you, Commissioner Geithner. I will be unable to attend Torchy's Tacos, unfortunately, because I also have a very busy day, busy week. I have the Board of Health this week, as well as Colorado Springs Urban Renewal Authority, and the State of the Chamber. All of those are tomorrow on Wednesday. We do have our Thursday land use meeting here, an HBA event, and then I too will be at the library board meeting, and I believe that it is the first meeting with a couple of new appointees. So looking forward to having them be able to orient themselves a bit, and I'm grateful for their service for our community on the library board. Okay, any other comments? And no county-wides online? Okay. With that, we will move on to item number 7.
Item number 7 is community service organization reports, and there are none.
Item 8.
Item number 8 is public comment on items not scheduled on the agenda. This is the public's opportunity to speak on an item that is not scheduled on today's agenda. And Madam Chair, I'm unaware of anyone signing in ahead of time.
Okay, thank you. Are there any members of the public wishing to speak on any item not on the agenda? Please come on down and introduce yourself, and your 3 minutes will begin. Good morning.
Good morning. My name is Deetra Duncan in Fountain City Council, but I am here speaking on behalf of myself. I'm standing here because I'm concerned about the Strathmore Hills Fire Department and their struggle to limit out-of-control fires to homeless camps. In 2022, there was an explosion of propane tanks, vehicles, tents, and shelters that were set ablaze. The encampment fires continues to grow in El Paso County and is a danger to other people. Recent weather conditions increases my concern for unregulated and unsafe homeless camps. And there was a call for a formation of a committee or a task force during this public meeting, and I just would like to know, was that task force or committee started, or because I would like to get involved in that.
Administrator Brett Waters.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for coming today. Brett Waters, County Administrator. My understanding is the task force did get started. There was a number of fire chiefs who started that task force. Staff members did attend the first few meetings for that task force. My understanding, and I don't know if staff are here, it wasn't clear the direction, but we did attend some of those meetings. I think it did cease to continue to have meetings, but we are always happy to engage as far as what we can do. We do have someone that we've since dedicated through the Board of County Commissioners support in code enforcement dedicated to homeless camp cleanup. That's all they do is homeless camp cleanup. We're absolutely happy to coordinate, to support, to engage with the fire departments, including Strathmore Hills, on whatever we can do to support that important mission. But just know that we put in not only staff, but also more funding for homeless camp cleanups, and staff did attend some of those meetings as well. I don't think it continues to happen, but staff is always absolutely willing to engage.
Okay,
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. And I think Commissioner Vanderwerf has a follow-up to that.
Yes, thank you. I also appreciate your coming down here this morning and to comment on this a little bit. I can say that we in El Paso County have been working on homeless camp cleanups a lot. We're well aware of the fire risk that's associated with them, and I won't speak for any of the other districts, but in my district, the West Side District, in my 7 years as a county commissioner, we've probably cleaned up over 30 camps. An enormous number. Now, some of the challenges is sometimes those camps are placed over multiple jurisdictions, kind of jurisdiction for CDOT, jurisdiction for a city, jurisdiction for the county. It does take some time to work through those processes, but I can also tell you a very specific one that was homeless camp on private property on the west side of El Paso County. And what we did do, and it's important to do this, is to notify the owner about some of the risks that they're carrying and that they could be carrying liability. And we eventually got that camp cleaned up as well. So I just want to make sure it's clear to the public that El Paso County does take the fire risk connected to homeless camps seriously. We also take very seriously the fact that homeless camps are a safety danger to the neighbors around the camp and also a safety danger to the people in the camp, because there are criminals that prey on the homeless as well, and they get abused in those camps also. So we do what we can to clean them up. We've put in place very recently here even more activity, partnering more tightly with the city of Colorado Springs with regard to homeless camp cleanup. So there's a lot going on in regard to this arena, and I just wanted you to be aware of that, and happy to talk to you about it further. Thank you.
Okay, I appreciate it, because we are in the Fountain Valley area, as Commissioner Gonzalez should know, is aware, that we are a lot of homeless, unhoused people are moving towards the Fountain Valley area, and we do have a lot of them on private property. So I would like to have that conversation.
Commissioner Gonzalez.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yes, I do want to highlight on the one specific issue to the example you did give was that it was on private property, and so the delays there were the county made full effort to attempt to get that cleaned up and address the public safety issue, but the private property owner was allowing them to stay. So we had to go through the litigation process to be able to get to the point where we could have done a cleanup, because the property owner was unwilling to work with us. during the time frame and during the time we were trying to get it cleaned up and go through the litigation process is when they had the fire. So there was full effort there by the county to try to address it, and it was unfortunate that the property owner was not willing to work with us to the level that could have gotten it cleaned up and hopefully, could have avoided that fire that scared a lot of people, because had it spread, it could have been a very, very dangerous situation. It already was a dangerous situation, but again, the county was trying to do what we could during that time frame. Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilwoman Duncan, thank you for being here today. We look forward to continuing to take the input, to be the convener, to be at the table on the solutions that are in our lane. We look forward to continued relationships with those fire chiefs who first came to us. And so thank you for being here today.
Okay, thank you.
Are there any other members of the public wishing to speak on any item not on today's agenda? Hearing none in the room and none online. Okay, thank you. Item number 9.
Item number 9 is the called up consent calendar, and there are no items called up today.
Item number 10.
Item number 10 is the hearing on the application by Dillon Companies LLC, doing business as King Soopers, number 147, for a retail fermented malt beverage and wine license on the premise located at 7530 Falcon Marketplace, El Paso County, Commissioner District 2. Jackie Allred, Clerk to the Board. And Madam Chair, the application does qualify for an abbreviated hearing at the Board's discretion, and at that time I would turn it over to the County Attorney.
Thank you. Madam Chair, if I could ask the clerk a series of questions. First, has the applicant fulfilled all state and local requirements?
The applicant has fulfilled all state and local requirements.
Does the neighborhood survey support the needs and desires of the local community for the requested license?
The neighborhood survey was favorable, and Liquor Pros is here to present and answer any questions regarding the survey.
Has any opposition been voiced against the issuance of the requested license?
No opposition has been received by the clerk's office at this time.
For the crowd, is there any party in interest today that's present to formally oppose the issuance of the requested license? Madam Chair, I see none. Finally, Madam Clerk, has the sheriff's investigation revealed criminal history relevant to the issuance of a liquor license?
There was no criminal history relevant to the issuance of the license.
Thank you. Madam Chair, I believe this matter does qualify for an abbreviated hearing.
Okay, and that requires a motion, correct?
Correct.
Okay. This item does qualify for an abbreviated hearing. If I could have a motion. Commissioner Geithner.
Madam Chair, I move we proceed with an abbreviated hearing on this item.
I will second.
That has been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Okay. Commissioner Williams.
Aye.
Commissioner Vanderwerf.
Aye.
Commissioner Gonzalez.
Aye.
Commissioner Geithner.
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. This item we will proceed with an abbreviated hearing. With that, I understand that the applicant and the applicant's representatives are here, as well as their representative for the liquor license survey. We would love to hear you. Welcome.
Thank you so much, Madam Chair, County Commissioners. Good morning. My name is Adam Stapen, A-D-A-M-S-T-A-P-E-N. I'm an attorney licensed to practice law here in the great state of Colorado. My registration number is 27506. I represent Dillon Companies. Also with me on behalf of Dillon Companies is Ali Brusilovsky, and she is the adult beverage manager for Dillon Companies for not only King Soopers, but also for City Market. And we have Eva Gerritsen on behalf of Liquor Pros, who circulated the petitions, that I think she'd like to talk to you briefly about the petition results, and then we'll briefly tell you kind of what we're doing in your neck of the woods. So thank you. Ms. Gerritsen.
Thank you. Good morning, Chair and members of the authority. Once again, for the record, my name is Eva Gerritsen, one of the owners of Liquor Licensing Professionals. We conducted the needs and desires survey regarding the new retail fermented malt beverage and wine license for King Soopers 147. We recently were in front of you doing another license in the same exact area for Chipotle. It was not too long ago. We did this survey on dates of Friday, January 12th and Saturday, January 13th, catching one of those negative days out there, so yeah, it was kind of miserable. But we were able to make attempted contacts with 595 business owners, managers, and residents inside the area and obtained a total of 133 signatures. This is a little bit lower than the one we did for Chipotle. It wasn't, with Chipotle, it was warmer weather, so sometimes when you have warmer weather, you can usually get 2 folks to come and sign a petition at the door. They wanted to close that door as quickly as possible, so sometimes we grabbed what we could and moved on to the next household. Of the business owners and managers, we obtained a total of 29 signatures. 25 signed in favor at 87%, 3 said no at 10%, and 1 with no opinion at 3%. We then obtained a total of 104 residential signatures, 93 signing in favor at 89%, 7 opposed at 7%, and 4 with no opinion. If we combine these totals, these are just the raw numbers: 89% signed in favor, 7% opposed, and 4 with no opinion. We remove that no opinion. That actually bumps those in favor petition or signatures up to 92% and 8 in there. We did notify the retail liquor store inside the area. She, of course, signed no, saw that as a form of competition. And the other 2 companies, we did contact them. They did decline to provide any sort of feedback because it was against their company policy to sign. But we did try and be as transparent as possible. But the 92% clearly shows a positive need and desire for this license in the area. And with the vacant landowners, we did receive 2 yeses that came back and 2 no opinions, which didn't necessarily change the percentage, so we like to keep it at 92%. But we do show that this, once again, shows a favorable need and desire, and that the existing outlets have not yet met that need. And I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Are there any questions regarding the survey? Excellent, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Gerritsen. Ms. Brulewski, please come up. I'd like to ask a couple questions to see if, one, you get to know Allie. Allie has taken over this position here recently on behalf of King Soopers and Dillon Companies. I think you want to get to know her. She's doing this across the state. We'll also talk briefly about the training and how we operate the store here so you get an understanding. But would you please tell these folks what you do for, please state and spell your name and tell these folks what you do for a living.
Sure. My name is Alina Brusilovsky, my full name. So it's ALINA BRUSILOVSKY. It's super long, I'm sorry. I've been in this role for 2 months right now, but previously to that, I was with Albertson Safeway for 10 years doing something very similar. Very, very excited to be able to support the El Paso County and their citizens with the things that we think that they want. And I am hoping to deliver a great product, deliver proper training, and not have any jurisdictional issues.
And can you describe to the commissioners why you're seeking a beer and wine license for consumption off your premise?
Sure. So our customers have told us over the state that they want this product. They want a one-stop shop that they can conveniently stop in and grab their needs. We want to make sure that it's a convenient product for all of our folks. And then seeing how El Paso County is growing. I mean, 20% in population growth since 2010. We want to be able to support the infrastructure and help deliver the same product.
And if you look at the floor plan real briefly, it looks like we're consolidating the permanent display to a certain area within the store. Mm-hmm. Can you just tell the commissioners why we're doing that?
So, of course, we want it to be in one area so it's not spread out in the store. The customers that want to have access to it have access to it. And it also limits traffic through it. We have additional cameras that are placed on it. We want to make sure that it's as secure as possible.
And can you describe to the commissioners the training you folks do to ensure you comply with the laws of the state of Colorado and the ordinances here of El Paso County? I apologize.
It's okay. So any new employee that works with adult beverage goes through ABT training, which used to be formerly known as TIPS. So they get extensive training one-on-one to make sure that they understand the legality of what they're dealing with. They also have monthly modules and yearly certifications, yearly and quarterly certifications. We take the importance of this very seriously. Anybody that is in violation of our policies is subject to a termination. It's a terminable offense.
And that was something that was changed as a result of the 3-2 beer turning into full strength, that meant that much to your organization, that was part of the discussions with the labor unions, that you're now allowed to terminate upon a violation, even albeit a first violation of somebody selling alcohol to a minor.
Correct.
And let's talk about the self-checkouts. I know we all understand self-checkouts. Can you describe to these good folks how you operate those?
Sure. So if a customer goes through self-checkout with an alcoholic beverage, it immediately prompts an employee to come up. We do not have less than one employee servicing 6 checkouts at a time because we want to make sure that we give that customer individual attention. That employee has to enter or either enter the date of the birthday on the ID or slide the actual ID card in order to pass that sale. We also employed Everseen, which is a new system that retailers use to help mitigate people who try to sneak in alcohol without scanning it, which is one of the concerns with self-checkout. So we're trying to do everything in our power to prevent that happening.
And the alcohol that's stored in the back of the house, I know the commissioners saw that in their floor plan. Who has access to that? And can you describe to these good folks how that's kept and maintained?
Sure. The alcohol is kept under lock and key. You see on the schematic, you see a large space. That's the space that alcohol would travel from receiving to the store. But it's kept in one small area under lock and key that only managers and assigned and trained employees have access to.
When does this store plan on opening?
Tomorrow? Tomorrow, yes. Okay. Thank you for hearing us today.
Yes. Do you have anything else you'd like to advise the commissioners during this abbreviated hearing as to what King Soopers is, what you're doing, and why you're asking for beer and wine for off-premise consumption?
Sure. King Soopers, I'm sure you all are familiar with, is a grocery store in the state of Colorado. We only have a few outlets outside of the state. We represent the state. We want to support the population here, and we want to make sure that a customer that shops anywhere in Colorado Springs has the same experience that they do in Falcon. We have a couple more stores planned for this area because we want to support you all, and we want to just deliver a consistent product to our folks.
I don't have any further questions during this abbreviated hearing. If you have any questions of myself or the representative, please feel free to ask, but we're here to answer any questions.
Commissioner.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to thank you for prompting the questions about training, because this board has often asked questions about training for the purposes of kind of making sure that there's a strong familiarity with the state law regarding selling to minors, and the questions and the responses were satisfactory to me, but I'm glad you actually took advantage of actually stating all that up front, so thank you.
I was also going to make that comment that I think Mr. Stapin did a very good job of asking the questions that this board generally does. And then I think Liquor Pros has also figured out which questions get asked up here. And so thank you for, we take the responsibility of approving these liquor licenses very seriously, and it's clear to me that you also take this very seriously. So with that, do we have any further comments or a question?
I'm sorry, I just wanted to congratulate you on the opening of your store. So we love King Soopers, so thank you very much.
Okay, Madam Chair, if we are ready, then I would like to move approval of this application by Dillon Companies LLC, doing business as King Soopers number 147, for a retail fermented malt beverage and wine license.
Second.
That has been moved and seconded. Any further discussion?
Madam Chair, if I could just say, I really appreciate, to the point of my colleagues, you did a fantastic job of answering all the questions that we would have asked had you not done such a fantastic presentation. It is very important. I have 2 teenage sons that live very, very close to this store. It is very important to me to make sure that we are keeping our community safe, our teenagers safe, and so I really appreciate the due diligence on doing that. And as Commissioner Williams said, this is a very exciting thing for the community, as I don't have to tell you, it's been a long time coming, a long time before I was a commissioner for certain, and I live very close to this location and will likely be frequenting it. So I know that the community is very excited to see this open. So thank you.
Okay, that has been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Okay, I'll call the roll. Commissioner Williams.
Aye.
Commissioner Vanderwerf.
Aye.
Commissioner Gonzalez.
Aye.
Commissioner Geithner.
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Congratulations, that passes 5-0. And we will take a brief recess.
Thank you. Before you do, I'd just like to express our gratitude and appreciation to Jackie. She did a wonderful job helping us get to a point that we can stock the store with all the items that the consumers in your jurisdiction are looking to buy. And I publicly want to say thank you to Jackie and to the board for making that happen. We truly appreciate you, so thank you very much.
Thank you, Jackie and Bridget. Thank you. We're in a recess. I will call this Tuesday, January 23rd meeting of the Board of County Commissioners back to order, and we are on item number 11.
Item number 11 is an annexation impact report, Ben Lomond Mountain Village annexation. Acknowledgement of an annexation impact report for Ben Lomond Mountain Village annexation. Pursuant to state statute, the Board of County Commissioners does not approve or deny an annexation impact report. The report provided by the town of Palmer Lake notifies the county of the annexation request and describes potential impacts in very general terms. The 181.5 acres is zoned RR5, residential rural, and is located south of County Line Road, west of Indy Drive, north of Lakeview Heights subdivision, and east of Oakdale Drive. This item is scheduled to be heard before the Town of Palmer Lake Board of Trustees on January 25th, 2024. Parcel number 7104000002, 001, 7104001010, and 7103000028. Commissioner District 1, ANX 241, Justin Kilgore, Planning Manager, Planning and Community Development.
Mr. Kilgore.
Good morning, Madam Chair, Commissioners. Before you is Annex 24-1. It's our first annexation of the year for 2024. It's Ben Lomond Mountain Village annexation. You see before you. Ms. Bagley and Mr. Jeff Rice were your staff that put this together. Mr. Rice is behind me. He'll be doing some transportation and drainage a little bit later. The legal authority for annexations is under CRS 3112-1085, as well as in the LDC for Chapter 10.1.7, and it's the standards for review for annexation impact reports. If it pleases the chair, I can leave these up or I can go through them.
I think we are evaluating them on our own, at our own speed, and we'll proceed in just a minute. Okay.
And I do have a slide for staff's best answers for these and towards the end. Here is the vicinity map, and you'll see here, these are the 4 parcels in question. Here is the town of Palmer Lake, and I-25 is right about here. The history of this request: the annexation petition was signed by the applicant on October 17th of 2023. We do not know when that was actually delivered to the town. El Paso County staff received the notice of the annexation on January 2nd, 2024. The annexation is for approximately 181.5 acres into the town of Palmer Lake. It is a portion of the property to the west of it, and these are just the other 4 parcels that are not in the town, but as part of the same project. The annexation report has not been received to date from the town of Palmer Lake. An annexation report is required to be submitted subject to CRS 3112-1085. It's supposed to be given to staff for a copy to the Board of County Commissioners within 20 days of the advertised hearing. The town trustees set a public hearing date of January 25th, 2024 for consideration of the proposed annexations. In speaking with the attorney for the town, we understand that this will be heard on the 25th, although it will be continued because they do not have all the information for them. Their engineering consultant is still preparing the annexation impact report for them as well. So they are requesting this to be heard. That way they can have the board's input for theirs, and then they can turn in their annexation impact report to the county, and we can work with them there. Staff's recommendation is that we just continue this annexation request as we would normally review it once they turn in that annexation impact report to staff, so that we can have a better idea of what their thoughts are, the town's thoughts, not the applicant's thoughts.
Can you clarify one statement that you just made for me?
Yes, ma'am.
Your recommendation is to carry on with our hearing today, or to actually take an action to continue this item to a later date?
Oh, no, ma'am. I'm sorry. That
Sure.
may have been a little bit confusing. I apologize. So we would recommend that once that the board give their recommendation or accept the annexation impact report, I believe the county attorney has provided y'all some options today on the actions that the board can take. I believe y'all have those in front of you. However, as they continue to move this forward, we would still like to see the information. That way we can provide recommendations to the town on the impacts to the county, roads, drainage, parks. CDOT had some comments as well, and I have those as later slides.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, so I've heard 2 different things. I heard that we had the annexation plan that did not have all the requirements, and now I've heard that we don't have the annexation plan. So do we not have the annexation plan? If we don't, I don't understand what we're showing on slides.
May I clarify, Madam Chair?
Please.
Commissioner Gonzalez, what was provided to staff was the applicant's report to the town. So the town provided us the applicant's report. The town did not provide an analysis of that report, nor did they provide their recommendations. So all we have to go off of, and staff put together for the Board of County Commissioners today, is the information that we received from the applicant through the town. I'm sorry, does that clarify?
It's a notice of annexation information as opposed to the actual application.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay, let's proceed.
Thank you, ma'am. Here is the zoning map. These parcels in question are these 4 right here. This is the site. Here's the town of Palmer Lake over here, parkland down here, RR 2.5 right here. These are RR5 zone parcels. The applicant intends to develop the proposed 181.5 acres with the additional 163.1 acres within the town of Palmer Lake. Currently, they are planning to rezone them to the Palmer Lake zoning district of RE, Estate Zone District, and that allows for single-family dwellings and accessory uses with a minimum lot size of 2.5 acres in their town. Here is a commission district map. The split is right there. Here is the annexation map provided by the applicant of the parcels in question. The El Paso County Master Plan recognizes this area as suburban residential place type. It's somewhat consistent with their request, 2.5 acres, single-family residential. The applicant states that each future lot will contain one single-family residential structure. Any associated accessory structures will adhere to the town's RE zoning district. All existing structures and uses included in the, including the existing church and the youth center, are proposed to remain with this project. And if the chair doesn't mind, I'll bring up Mr. Rice for the engineering portion.
Morning, Chair, Commissioners. Jeff Rice with Engineering. So as far as County Line Road goes, the traffic concerns, the project, the annexation is proposed to annex to the center line, which is this red highlighted portion there of County Line Road. The north half is Douglas County, all the way through that area and the area to the east. We do recommend that they should take the cyan color also, assuming that their town is using that road. There's more traffic than the county would have on that road. So that could be whenever possible. We're not saying they need to include that with this annexation, but just in the future, at some point, we would recommend that be annexed. The county does have maintenance agreements with Douglas County, again, which does, their jurisdiction goes to the center line, basically. So the county maintains that road under an agreement. So we'd recommend that any maintenance by the town be transferred through a different agreement to the town from the county. We don't expect drainage to be a major issue with the 2.5 acre lots proposed. Most of the property on the north half drains to County Line Road. And then the southwest part of the property flows towards the town of Palmer Lake. And there's 2 or 3 unincorporated large parcels that could be affected. So when they do their subdivision designs, we'd want to make sure they pay attention to the drainage at that time.
Commissioner Williams.
What was their willingness to take that part of County Line Road?
That's still under discussion, I think. I don't know that that's really, since we don't have the actual annexation report or any information from the town, I think that's just an item that needs to be discussed with the town.
And do you have any idea how many houses they would be putting on these 2.5, on these lots?
I'm not sure if they had a number, but based on the topography and the size of lots, based on the 180 acres in this portion and 2.5 acre lots, you could assume maybe, I would say 60 maybe. Because you'd have to have the roads and access and drainage and things like that. So.
Okay, thank you.
Any further questions for engineering? Thank you.
And here we have, Commissioners, we have some selected comments that we'd like to provide you from Parks. There was some comments in the applicant's report about the mountain and the open space. So Park had these recommendations that the applicant worked with the town of Palmer Lake to establish the longstanding publicly accessible open space on the southern, western, and northwestern slopes of the mountain, and provide public access from the new Santa Fe Regional Trail and the Santa Fe open space on the mountain's southern slopes. And we're also recognizing that it's one of the last remaining undisturbed and most recognizable landmarks in northern El Paso County. So the preservation of that feature is important. There's the open space down here, as well as the trail, and it kind of touches through the property right about here. CDOT also had some comments. They identified that they needed a traffic impact study, a TIS, For this project, they want to know the details of the impacts to I-25 Palmer Divide County Line Road interchange. Also, they're identifying that there may need to be modifications to an access permit. The access permit may be required for this development. Again, they're asking for a traffic impact study to determine if the traffic volume increase is greater than 20%. Also for interchange roadway improvements, and again, mentioning the traffic impact study. So there are some items here in the applicant's annexation impact statement, as well as their application, that staff would want to walk through and address when that annexation impact report comes in.
Commissioner Williams.
I have another question on that. So if we went ahead and approved the annexation today, and pretty much if they want to annex, we usually allow that, but CDOT came back and said, we need more money for this intersection, who would the fee fall on?
I believe engineering would have to answer that question for you, ma'am.
Okay.
I'm not quite sure.
Because in approval of the report, I don't want the increased traffic on the road to fall upon the taxpayers of El Paso County.
So basically, when it'd be unlikely to receive a traffic study at this point because you'd want to wait for the developer to develop their plans on how many lots. They'd have to have the number of lots and which way the traffic is going. So basically, assuming this part and the other part, say, for example, had 100 lots, there could be 1,000 trips roughly that would use the road. And then CDOT would use that number and say whether or not the developer has to do an access permit. So if the county is in control of the road, we would have to sign on that access permit, but the developer would still be responsible for whatever improvements CDOT requested.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm. And here, commissioners, we have staff's best answers to the responses earlier from the information that we were provided. So this project will be on individual well and septic systems. There's a lack of existing central supply. Natural gas service will be provided by Black Hills Energy. Emergency services is anticipated to be provided by Tri-Lakes. The proposed annexation complies with all the other El Paso master plan components. The property will be accessed from 2 points on County Line Road, and the existing fire access roads will remain. The development will be served by a private roadway maintained by the Future Homeowners Association. Staff is not aware of any unreasonable detrimental impacts other than some of the things that we have identified from their preliminary report, things that CDOT and Parks have identified as well. We're unaware the annexation will create any county enclaves. It does not appear so. And it will not remove any land from an existing special district. And here is the overall area zoning. Here is the National Forest here, Palmer Lake here, and the 4 parcels right here. And may I answer any questions?
Do we have any questions? Commissioner Vanderwerf.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. So I just kind of want to go down a dialogue, a little bit of a conversation here. First of all, just to make sure I understand one way or another, has Palmer Lake officially requested the waiver?
Yes, sir, they have.
Okay. And Palmer Lake is going to have their hearing on this on the 25th?
This Thursday, yes, sir, that's correct.
This Thursday?
Yes, sir.
Commissioner, if I may, that is why this land use item is today instead of our land use meeting on Thursday, so that there's time for staff to respond to that.
Okay. I just, I just kind of a little bit curious about why we would be doing this at this point when we don't know what will come out of the hearing with Palmer Lake. And, you know, a little bit of what's in the back of my head, and I'll just get it on public record here. You know, we're often bothered by the fact that the state sometimes imposes things on El Paso County, and not that accepting this or waiving this would necessarily be an imposition on Palmer Lake, but I don't know what Palmer Lake's position is on this. And it feels like, to me, maybe it would be wise for them to do a little self-determination first before we proceed. And in other words, maybe a continuance. I'm just interested in, you know, what's the meaning behind that? I mean, is there something that they need from us in order for them to go forward on Thursday?
Commissioners, for the record, Megan Harrington, Planning Director. So what state statute requires, and Kenny can certainly chime in. I'm up here answering this because I have some experience with staffing annexations at a municipal level. What the state statute requires is that the town of Palmer Lake, when they have put the annexation request on the agenda, which they have, they've noticed per the statute requirements, they have 25 days prior to their scheduled hearing, they are required to submit to us the annexation impact report. Now, we have many of the pieces of the annexation impact report that are required per state statute. What we didn't get, which is a little different in this case, is typically when the annexation request is submitted to the town, when the property owner submits to the town would send us what we call a buck slip review. They would send us all of the information. So that the applicant submitted in October the request for annexation. The town does not typically deal with large annexations like this, nor a lot of large land use in general. So they did not submit to the county the application materials in October. What we received was the statute required notification that they would be starting the hearing process on the annexation. So the Board of County Commissioners does not approve the annexation. All you're doing is acknowledging an annexation impact report, or you can grant them a waiver of submittal of the annexation impact report. They originally requested a waiver of the report, however, came back to us and said the town did not understand what their requirements were. They will get us the information. So we're bringing to you, and what Kenny had provided you were options for what could be the outcome of today. It could be you granting them the waiver, or we could ultimately bring this back in the future when we have additional information. Staff is going to continue to work with the town when they come to the development of the property, but right now all the town is saying is we're going to annex this property and zone it. So we are doing this the right way. Statute requires that we bring this to you prior to their hearing. What makes this a little different is that the town has stated they've already noticed the hearing for Thursday. They will have the hearing, but they are required per state statute in order to continue that hearing at least 1 hour of testimony. So there will be some testimony or something will happen on Thursday of which we as county staff cannot tell you how they're going to do that. So we brought this to you today before their hearing starts so that you have any comments that we can relay. We do that and get that on record before the hearing starts on Thursday. Then our expectation is that they will have their hour of testimony, however that will be. They could open up the hearing at the beginning of their meeting and close it and then continue, but they need to keep that hearing open for an hour. If they do that, we brought this to you so that we made sure that we reserved that process and that we could move forward and have any of your comments on record.
Commissioner Williams.
Do you know the capacity of Palmer Lake? Well, I shouldn't say that because that requires you to make a judgment. Does Palmer Lake have a planning staff, more than 1 or 2?
Palmer Lake does not have a planning staff. I believe they use consultants. They have outsourcing of consultants. I cannot tell you if those are planning consultants or engineering consultants. We have been speaking directly with the town attorney as well as the town administrator.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Vanderwerf, I don't know if that clears up your questions about why we're bringing this to you now. It's really the unknown of the hearing starting on Thursday and then there being testimony and that hearing continuing. We wanted to make sure that we are following the statute process.
So Commissioner Vanderwerf, you can carry on with your questions in just a second, but I think to further clarify that, I think staff made a good assessment that this might be our only opportunity to provide some input, and so that's much more why we're here today.
Sure. Thank you, Madam Chair. I appreciate that. And continuing that, my conversation here, so I think it is important that we provide input. And one of the recommendations, about a pathway forward is to ask staff to be at that hearing. And I suppose that would be an opportunity to express some of the considerations that we have regarding it. And I think one of those is possibly annexing all of County Line Road to I-25, if I understood that correctly. Has that been already shared with Palmer Lake, some of these deliberations, which might be great, or is that something that needs to be done at the hearing?
We as staff have provided comments to Palmer Lake, which a lot of our comments are in the detail, and right now they don't have a plan, or the property owner does not have a plan for what this development will look like in the future. I believe that those conversations are forthcoming, as Mr. Rice stated, with a specific plan for development, which is when they will also require the property owner to submit a traffic study. So we have submitted those comments. Here's the conversations that staff would like to have. We have not had the opportunity to have those conversations, but again, a lot of that is the detail that I believe will continue in the future. We also, as staff for the county, need to consider what other development will be occurring along County Line Road.
All right, thank you.
Any further questions for staff at this time?
I'm just, while you're there, if you could go back one slide, I would appreciate it. I'm sorry, I just wanted to look at it.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
Kenny Hodges, County Attorney. Could I provide just one additional clarification? I think Megan explained things very well, but if I could just go quickly through a few of the options before the board today.
Please.
As Ms. Harrington explained, we don't have a full annexation impact report before the board. And the board actually does have a right to either receive that or the statutory ability to waive that requirement. If the board were to waive that requirement, I believe that would take a motion second and majority vote. Alternatively, the board could proactively address it by moving to deny that request for a waiver that was passed through staff from Palmer Lake staff as well. Beyond that, I don't believe that it takes a majority vote or anything to direct staff to provide comment, but I think that the kind of the front and center issue for the board to address is whether or not it wants to grant the waiver that's been requested.
Thank you for that clarification. Commissioner Geithner.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And certainly this is in very close to both Commissioner Williams and Commissioner Vanderwerf's districts. So I'm curious on what their thoughts on this. But it sounds like it's been a little bit of a complicated process. I understand Palmer Lake is a very small town, and this is probably a very new process for them. So I want to make sure that we are working with them to the very best of our ability and all of those things at the same point, especially because they are a small town. And we do want to make sure that nothing falls through the cracks on this and that it's very clear. I think having staff, directing staff to attend and share exactly what we've talked about here today with the concerns around those roads would be appropriate. But also, I'm not in favor of the waiver at this point, purely because I do think we need to come back and have this discussion again and in the public so that the public can be sure that these things have all been addressed. And that would provide us the opportunity to be able to have that discussion and have that transparency and get a report on really where the town is, and then some additional feedback from our staff on whether all of those concerns have been met. So that would be my thoughts.
Commissioner Vanderwerf.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'll actually agree with the comments from Commissioner Geithner. You know, one thing that's important to me is just a kind of a process, making sure that we have a process, which we do, some of which is guided by statute, and then a consistent application of that process without regard for the municipality or, you know, the applicant and so forth. So my question at this point, and maybe staff could answer this, is if there were a recommendation from this board to deny the request for waiver, and that would not be a pejorative denial, that would just be because we, in my personal view, just a need to follow a process. Is there any harm or other negative consequences of that, of denying that waiver request that we can perceive, that we would perceive? Let's say maybe perhaps from the view of Palmer Lake, because they've, you know, I actually appreciate that this is the first time they've done anything on this scale, so I think our staff working with them and just being patient with them and all of this is an awesome thing to do. So it sounds like that's what you're doing, so I appreciate that. But I think following the process is also, you know, good as well. So is there any potential negative consequences that you can think of if we were to deny the waiver today?
Commissioner Vanderwerf, no, because after they originally had requested the waiver, the town, the attorney for the town said, we will work to provide you the information, which is why their recommendation from staff to their town council would be on Thursday to start the hearing and then continue the hearing. And so what we would do would be to provide the comments to the town, work with them to ensure that we received all of the information that's required through the annexation impact report, and we would need to bring that back to you prior to the date that they continue the hearing. So we would he had said 2 weeks. I would rely on the town to tell us, is 2 weeks enough for you to get us the information and for us to get this back to the Board of County Commissioners so that that statutory process is met? Again, I'm talking some legalese, so I keep looking over there to the county attorney to make sure I don't step in it. But then we would bring that back to you before their hearing for continuation was scheduled, and that would be kind of continuing with that flow, which is typical, whereas this has caught us a bit off guard, and we don't have as much time as we typically would to review that. I will tell you, though, that they have not yet prepared a traffic study, and there's some larger documentation that I believe they will defer until the development stage. So you may not have all of the answers that you would typically have through our process, but we would bring to you all of the information that were provided.
One maybe quick follow-up, but I appreciate those comments very much. In this particular case, just being, you know, sensitive to the size of Palmer Lake and the limited staff that they have, perhaps there could be an interpretation on a future date about completing the delivery of this report. Could be a statement in there that they intend on doing that traffic study that's just not done, but that'd be like a formal statement from the town of Palmer Lake that it is their intention to accomplish that, but, you know, not at this point. And then that's something in a report that we can evaluate at that point. So
we can certainly relay that. I'm just not familiar with Palmer Lake's planning processes. They don't go through this all the time, and so they're just doing this and trying to stumble through what their minimum requirements are. But they have been great about, once they sent that notice to us and staff said, we need additional information, this is a large rezoning, this is what the county would typically require of the property owner. They've been great about saying, hey, we'll continue this hearing, we want to get you the information that you need, and we want to continue to have those conversations.
Yes, so I have a couple thoughts on this. My inclination is to actually waive the requirement of the full report, and the reason being is because the town of Palmer Lake is so small and they do have limited resources. The second reason is an entirely different reason, which is there's a big demand for housing in this northern area of the county, and the recent annexation that we approved to go into the town of Monument was denied and may come back to us. But then again, at the same time, Monument planning staff is having a hard time processing all of the work, and so they have somewhat just shut down development. And so I worry somewhat that there's a big demand for housing in this area and that we might also delay that demand. I do have things I would like to see from them. Definitely, I would like to see I would like to see the adoption of the whole entire road, but I would like to see if CDOT requires additional access to I-25, that the developer pay that fee. I would like to see that they, of course, they've proposed to adopt County Line Road where the new houses would be going. And I would really like them to consider some park protection for Ben Lomond Mountain. Other than that, I don't know as to whether an additional, just if we express that information to Palmer Lake, if the creation of an annexation report would be necessary in this case. But I will follow the will of the board.
Thoughts or discussion on that? Commissioner Geithner.
If I could, Megan, just ask you, because I appreciate Commissioner Vanderwerf's question here on would there be any negative impact towards the town. As Commissioner Williams stated, certainly we don't like to be a roadblock to slowing processes down, but it sounds like they are already slowing down their own process in this regard. So would we anticipate that this is going to be slowing down Palmer Lake, or am I reading this correctly, that they are already slowing this down to kind of look at it? And certainly, again, we don't want to stand in the way. At the same point, I do believe we have due diligence to do to make sure that we don't rush it through so quickly that we have detrimental impacts to infrastructure, to the community. So, can you just answer that for me?
The town attorney for Palmer Lake has told us that they expect to ask their town council to continue the hearing, and that the attorney stated they are working with their consultants and the owner's consultants to prepare an annexation impact report. So again, that's where they originally asked for the waiver, and then we were notified last week where the town attorney stated we're going to ask the town council to continue it. Again, county staff is bringing this to you because you just don't know what's going to happen at those hearings, and that hearing is going to be opened and they will be taking testimony. And so while you may end up seeing this again, if you want the annexation impact report to come back to you, we felt it important to get this in front of you before that hearing even opens. But they are going to request the continuance.
So can I just have a follow-up to that, Megan, and ask, so then if we do not deny the waiver and we were to grant the waiver, then this would not have to come before this body again?
It would not, but that does not mean that staff would not still be talking to the town of Palmer Lake. I believe staff has already put the town on notice through communications that we want to see a traffic study, that we want to see I don't know if they call it just a final plat or if they do a preliminary plan. We've already told the town we would like to see all of that, and we would like to continue to work with you related to the overall long-term maintenance and ownership of County Line Road. Again, there's other development occurring along County Line Road in the future, and if that's all the town responsibility or if that does need to be continue some maintenance with the county, I believe that conversation needs to be ongoing.
So
I've agreed to that.
Okay, so if I could just kind of summarize my thoughts, Megan, you can feel free to correct me if you feel like I'm summarizing this incorrectly, but it doesn't sound like we're going to be holding them up either way. It sounds like it's really just a matter of whether this comes back in front of this board. Either way, the same kind of thing is going. We know that they don't need our approval to move forward with an annexation. And so, again, I'm just in favor of being transparent. I'm sensitive to your thoughts here, but unless anyone is seeing something, it really, to me, just seems like it really is just a matter of whether it comes back before this board in a public manner, and I would like to see that so that the public gets an opportunity to see that is transparent, and that we get to. We can certainly ask questions of planning on our own, but I think it's appropriate. In my mind, I would like to see that come back before this board so that it is in a formal setting for everyone.
So I actually agree with you on that now. Took me a while to get to the answer I needed. So then I guess the motion would be I would decline to waive the report and require that Palmer Lake return and provide more information closer to a full statutory report before we finalize the annexation. But then I'm also happy to see they're having a hearing tomorrow.
I think we have further discussion from Commissioner Gonzalez. Oh, go ahead.
No, if there's further discussion, I was willing to second, but I can defer that if there. Okay, I'd like to go ahead and second that motion, and then we can certainly continue the discussion. And I just want to make one point. I would encourage. I mean, I think there's been great points made here on this board. We do need more housing, so I would encourage the town of Palmer Lake to deeply consider the possibility of this annexation and going forward with the development itself. But we have a process, and since this is Palmer Lake's first entry into that bigger process, I think we just will, I would recommend that we all work with Palmer Lake, help them get through that process in a good and healthy way to the extent that we can. But you know, there may be another opportunity for them to annex down the road, and so this will be a fantastic learning process, I think, for them. But we also have, you know, a need. We have these standards that are up here, and we can be sensitive, I think, a little bit to their limited resources, and then that annexation report can not necessarily be entirely complete, but having a comment from the town of Palmer Lake in that report, I think is just a fantastic thing for us all to do together as a team with them and us. So I'll second that motion and recommend our board vote in favor of this motion and second. Thank you.
Commissioner Gonzalez.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And so for me, whether this decision was made final today or in 2 or 3 weeks, what I want in there and as guidance back to staff, because this is what I would want to be in the, if we're to accept the report with comments in a couple of weeks, would be, yes, we want the comments and feedback to Palmer Lake for the to try to accept some of those roads as recommended by staff, as well as recommending the maintaining of the access to Ben Lomond Mountain as also recommended by staff. So I want to make sure that guidance is back to staff for their meeting Thursday. And because that would have been my recommended comments, whether the decision was made today or in a couple of weeks, those are the 2 things I agree with should be comments in today and in the report in the future. Thank you.
If I may, commissioners, and then staff would just be looking for direction. We can certainly provide all of your comments in writing via an email, or at your direction, staff, namely me, could attend on Thursday and voice these directly as part of that opening of the public comment period. If they open it up to the public to make comments, then we can ensure that someone is there on Thursday. So at your direction, I'd be looking to determine what your preference is.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. I appreciate that, Megan, and I would, my preference would be that either you or someone from the staff be present there at the hearing and provide, you know, some context and some input from this hearing to them. But I'm certain that you all will do that in a great way, because I also feel it's important to encourage them to kind of get into this process, get involved in the process, be part of it, learn from it, and also to, you know, think about the fact that we all do need more housing. So I would encourage them to just get through the process in a proper way and possibly, you know, complete that annexation. I happen to be comfortable with the annexation kind of in the in the overall scheme of it. So it's just a matter of getting us through this process that meets the statutory requirements. But the key thing that I think I really like the most about it, I do want that, I'm interested in that report, but in the process of talking to them about the report, we'll be able to give them a lot of insights that will be really important for them to deliberate over as they go through their process. So I think there's real value in that. And I think one last comment that I have with regard to it, since this is their first foray into a larger venture like this, it's probably better to get it right than do it fast. So if it takes a little extra time to get it right, that's, I think, the best answer for everybody. So I think it's best to get it right rather than try and get through it quickly. And those are my comments. Thank you.
So all the comments here today are great, thoughtful, thorough. What I will say is, our responsibility to the citizens of El Paso County is also those that live in the still unincorporated El Paso County areas surrounding that, and the way that those citizens, the government authority that those citizens have the ability to come to is right here to us. So I think having the full report, I think that's what Commissioner Geithner was getting at with the full transparency, those residents along Indy Drive and those other sections that are still unincorporated and adjacent to this, their opportunity, their appropriate person to speak to right now is us. And so that's what, and again, while we won't have any authority to really approve or deny an annexation impact report at that point, they're going to be watching our meetings for what we're saying for that. And it's our job to kind of take that responsibility very seriously. So I'm also in favor of the proposed motion today. Is there any further discussion? Okay, and to clarify, the motion made by Commissioner Williams and seconded by Commissioner Vanderwerf is to deny the request to waive the annexation report requirement. Okay, with that, any further comments? Okay, I will call the roll. Commissioner Williams.
Aye.
Commissioner Vanderwerf.
Aye.
Commissioner Gonzalez.
Aye.
Commissioner Geithner.
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. That passes 5-0. And thank you. I think we will take a brief recess at this time. Welcome back to the Tuesday, January 23rd Board of County Commissioners meeting, and we are on item number 13.
Item number 13 is the resolution amending the El Paso County Personnel Policies Manual. Xavier Frost, Chief Human Resources Officer, Human Resources Department, and Nathan Whitney, First Assistant County Attorney.
Good morning, Board. Thank you for having me here. Again, Xavier Frost, Chief Human Resource Officer. If I may do a quick introduction to this, this was certainly a labor of love, being edited for I think over a year now to get it exactly where we wanted it. I want to thank the people who participated in putting this together, which are actually so many. I couldn't name them all, but my leadership team in HR, Nate Whitney and the rest of the county attorney's office, my fellow directors, elected officials, and including a couple of the executive directors who came here today to offer support of this. So as a significant edit to the PPM, there are too many changes to cover, just everything. So instead, we tried to put together what we feel are the most significant edits for your discussion. This is a long PowerPoint. Don't worry, I don't plan on reading verbatim, but I will certainly answer any questions. We use this. There we go. I skipped to chapter 2 because chapter 1 was mostly just verbiage, tweaks, nothing significant. So starting off with chapter 2, which is our recruitment and selection of employees, the Immigration Act, the Immigration Act and E-Verify, we updated to ensure compliance. We actually didn't even reference E-Verify in the current manual, which is not a best practice. We added language regarding rejecting an application, such as not meeting the minimum qualifications or background standards for a position, which did not exist before. We added clarification language about hiring former employees that simply captures our current practices. And we also added that employees terminated for cause will not be eligible for rehire within 6 months and then considered on a case-by-case basis after that. We changed the language regarding restricting employees from giving professional references. They were not allowed to do that in the current manual, which is unusual because we actually require references of people applying for us, so that seemed like a conflict. We added cousins to the employment of relatives section, but we also made some language tweaks that clarifies we may need to address situations where a conflict exists when there is no reporting relationship. That is few and far between, but it does give us, or does outline our authority to do that. Staying or moving to our class and compensation area, 3.2 and 3.6 go together. We've historically not been in sync with salary increases, performance-related awards, et cetera. This adds guidelines to those processes to ensure more consistency among the departments. 3.3 clarifies our initial evaluation period, which has been misunderstood in the past. We've outlined career progressions, which are non-competitive movements, such as going from a position that has a 1, a maintenance worker 1 to a maintenance worker 2, where we're not actually, again, doing a competitive process, but moving them throughout an established progression series. Finally, we added in clarification that employees on a teleworking agreement may be required to work during adverse weather closures. This has been a pretty regular practice with many of the departments for the last couple of years, but this solidifies the practice. We believe getting employees being able to telework, but not getting the snow days actually strikes a fair balance if we're going to, since we are continuing to offer telework. Chapter 4, leave. Regarding jury duty, well, I'll start off with vacation, actually. So, well, jury duty, employees receive pay for the duration of jury duty. How that's outlined in the current manual is the first 10 days. Being that we want to support employees doing their civic duty, we remove that 10-day cap so that they could receive jury duty for the duration of the expectation of them placed on them by having jury duty. 4.05, domestic abuse leave for domestic violence. This language was really just updated to mirror the law that's in place. So we made changes as appropriate to just be in compliance. Now with paid holidays and leave, we changed personal days. This is just a relabel to personal holidays to emphasize their purpose. We get a lot of requests to recognize various holidays throughout the county, and by recognize, I mean provide paid time off for those days. We really wanted to emphasize the county gives you 3 days to celebrate holidays that are important to you and your family. So we believe the rebranding to personal holidays will help emphasize that point. Failure to report to work or job abandonment. We changed the title, we made some clarifications. We also changed the absence from 1 day to 2 consecutive work days. That way, if someone's in a car accident and can't get a hold of us, we don't have an issue, hopefully, with someone wanting to prematurely terminate them. And we added language that job abandonment is considered a voluntary resignation. Continuing on with Chapter 4, we updated language for the Pregnant Workers Fairness Act. Again, those aren't necessarily our changes. Those changes are made to ensure compliance with the law. And then modified duty, we made many clarifications, qualifications, and grammatical changes. We added to employees' obligation to request a modified duty. They must make a request for non-work related or medical condition to a supervisor. Modified duty may be mandatory if an injury is work-related. We deleted some kind of unnecessary language, and we changed modified duty not exceeding 45 days to 60 working days, that just because that helps us better track the time they use. So that's really just a system thing. 45 days is about the equivalent of 60 working days. Moving on to Chapter 5, working conditions. Once again, we made legal changes to discrimination, harassment, sexual harassment, retaliation. So it provides greater examples as provided by the EEOC. Violence in the workplace, we added language to include threats or conduct towards the public, not just employees, to hold employees accountable who might have an altercation with someone who's not an employee. Continuing on with working conditions, we made changes to the controlled substances area. We removed a paragraph that a copy of the policy must be provided to CDL drivers, not because we don't believe in that, but because it's just obvious and we provide it through this. Test required for employee safety sensitive jobs. We just made more clarification language there. Employee drug test notifications. Again, we removed some language that wasn't really needed. It's part of a law that we would provide them with notification, so the language just didn't add anything. 5.10, inspection. This is inspection of when the county needs to do an inspection. We added that digital data can be searched, which again is currently a practice that's well guarded. It actually requires either the approval of the county attorney or myself. And we removed a paragraph about county-owned property, which actually just got moved. Finally, the technology use policy, we added under the list of prohibited use, any form of online gambling. I'm assuming that was added to better protect ourselves, and we added the multi-factor authentication, which has been in place for what feels like a year now, but we needed to lock that into actual policy. Working conditions, teleworking added, we changed the title to add remote work. That's just the way the phrasing of this is going. We added a new category called Other, which outlines some restrictions, such as employees not taking personally identifiable information outside of the office without consent. Equipment may not be taken out of the country without approval. Off-site workspace, clarifying that it's considered an extension of the county workplace. Telework not being a substitute for child-dependent care. County maintaining the ability to inspect as per the former chapter I was discussing. And the county may use databases to ensure employees are complying with agreed upon work schedules. That's just an accountability thing to ensure we're getting the work out of employees that they're supposed to on telework. Employee mandatory disclosures. We clarified procedures about an employee reporting when they have law enforcement contact. Personal belongings is a new section where we outline not being responsible for personal belongings, and again, under very rare circumstance, can be subject to search. This would not be used lightly. These would be things for potential active harmer situations or something like that. Children in the workplace is a new section, general rule being not allowed, but if unavoidable, needs to get approved by a supervisor. Chapter 7, discipline and employee grievances. We removed the provision that procedures outlined in 704, 705, and 706 do not apply to executive directors. We're actually just changing the language back to the way the PPM used to be. We added to the list of offenses, I think through the combination of everything, we actually ended up with fewer offenses, but we did add a couple of new ones, such as bringing discredit or embarrassment to the county as something we would hold employees accountable for. We reorganized and reworded administrative leave and expanded to include more detailed reasons an employee may be put on administrative leave. And finally, disciplinary actions. We removed the verbal reprimand. The verbal reprimand was documented, so in effect it was a written reprimand, and therefore it just didn't make sense. We updated corrective action plan language. Actually, we inserted corrective action plan language. Corrective action plan is a tool used to help employees get back on track who have performance issues. However, we never discussed that in the current policy, so we wanted to add it in since it is a heavily used tool. We had noticed that termination and discharge were both used in the manual interchangeably to mean the same thing. So after a little bit of research about what term is appropriate, we changed termination to disciplinary discharge. And we added the county can classify an employee as eligible or ineligible for rehire. That's new language. And we can request, employees can request that disciplinary action be removed after 5 years. Those requests would not be considered if they're disciplined concerning sexual harassment, discrimination, violence, or theft. Termination from employment, we added resignation. Employees paid for the last 2 weeks if resignation is accepted immediately. We felt that was fair, that if an employee gives us 2 weeks notice, but we choose to end their employment sooner than that, that we pay them for the remainder of the notice they gave us. The last day must be a scheduled work day. Employees are expected to work their last day. Last day can't be a holiday or weekend, and the county can change the employee's last day of employment to the last day that was physically worked. And the county can classify eligibility for rehire and decide whether proper notice was given. The rescission of resignation, this is new, clarified what's already a current practice, that only the hiring authority can decide whether to allow an employee to rescind their resignation. It is not necessarily the employee's choice. Rehire of retired employees, we actually just moved a lot of that content to a different section. So those are my highlights. I thank you in advance for any support.
Do we have any questions? Commissioner Vanderwerf.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. First of all, I appreciate all the work that was put into this. You know, it's sometimes amazing what you sometimes don't see, and it turns out, you know, with a lot of talented people looking at it, what maybe we had failed to have in the HR manual. I do know that during my 7 years as county commissioner, we did add a whistleblower provision, whistleblower language, so I'm just asking, is that still present in the HR manual?
I do not remember removing that, nor would I have supported that. So I'm going to assume it's in there, and we'll check on that.
Okay, thank you.
Yes,
Just interested
it is still in there.
It is still in there. Just making sure that employees have an opportunity to describe what they think might not be right and to do it in some form of protected way that doesn't necessarily threaten their job, because we want that input and feedback from employees to help us be better.
Now, if I may go a little off script, we recently added an employee suggestion box where employees can send in anonymous anything to us, and they can select the department it goes to. But what's unique about this suggestion box is they can put in their email, and it anonymizes their email. So we can actually have an exchange back and forth, but they still remain anonymous. That's been a very great tool for getting some candid feedback.
Excellent, thank you.
Any other questions or discussion? Okay. This is an action item, and so it will require a vote to approve a resolution that's in the packet. Do we have a motion?
I move approval of the Employee Personnel Policy Handbook.
And I'll second.
That has been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? And just quickly, are there any members of the public or employees who would like to comment on this item? Okay. Thank you all for your help in putting this together. It's a labor of love, as you said, but one that required a high level of attention to detail and stepping through the implications of every rule change. So thank you for bringing your expertise and experience to all of those who had a role in this. So that has been moved and seconded. I will call the roll. Commissioner Williams.
Aye.
Commissioner Vanderwerf.
Aye.
Commissioner Gonzalez.
Aye.
Commissioner Geithner.
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. That passes 5-0. Congratulations.
Thank you all for your support.
Item 14.
Item number 14 is department and committee reports, non-action items, and there are none.
Item 15.
Item 15 is the addendum, and there are no addendums today.
Item 16.
Item 16 is the executive session, and there is no request for executive session.
We are adjourned.